Welcome. At the beginning of the course, we would like to invite you to reflect on some concepts that will accompany us throughout this learning journey. Discussing gender and gender-based violence may be difficult, as it includes concepts and terms that are not always clear, which may change over time and that cut across different disciplines, such as psychology, sociology, culture, medicine, law, education, activism, or politics. There are many terms used in theories of sexuality and gender, such as sex, gender, gender identity, gender expressions, gender roles, or sexual orientation, and they may be confusing. The moment we are born, the nurse or the doctor usually says, "It's a boy," or "It's a girl." This simple sentence looks very innocent, but it has a performative character. It actually has an influence on people for the rest of their lives. They will be expected to behave or even think in the ways that are specific for boys or girls. They will be expected to agree to social norms that are ascribed to girls and boys, and later to men and women. And the sentence is only said on the basis of the genitals that the baby has, either a penis or a vagina. What if it's difficult to, or even impossible to say if the baby has a penis or a vagina? And there are cases like that. There are many definitions of sex and gender out there. To sum them up, in most sociological theories, sex refers to biological differences between males and females, and gender to socially produced differences between being feminine and being masculine. As the concept of gender is important to understand gender-based violence, we can summarize both terms, sex and gender, in the following way. When we talk about sex, we refer to biological differences between males and females. We talk about gonads, sexual organs, chromosomes, or hormones. Sex is usually assigned at birth. There are examples, though, when it's assigned later, when sex characteristics do not clearly indicate the sex of the baby. For example, in case of intersex people. Sex can be changed. In case of transsexual people who are born with sex characteristics of one sex and gender identity of another one, sex reassignment surgeries are performed. This includes change of sex organs, administration of hormones, and in some cases, change of name. So what do we mean when we talk about gender? Gender is a social, psychological, and cultural construct, and it is developed in the process of socialization. Different societies and cultures have different understandings of what masculine or feminine is. Societies create norms and expectations related to gender, and they are learned throughout people's lives, in the family, at school, from the media, which usually impose certain roles on us and patterns of behavior. Those norms, often limited to the notions of masculinity and femininity, change over times, but they are usually based on heteronormative order, meaning there are two sexes, two genders, and they are attracted to each other. People who do not fall into this binary notion of gender suffer from exclusion, discrimination, and violence. Gender is both an analytical category, meaning the way of thinking about how identities are constructed, and a political idea that addresses the distribution of power in society. Gender is learned and internalized by all members of society. And gender varies in different cultures and in time. Gender also carries a hierarchy, meaning an equal power structure related to gender that disadvantages mostly women. Gender is not necessarily the product of biological sex. A person's gender may or may not correspond with biological sex. It is more about identity, how we deeply feel about ourselves. People may identify themselves as male, female, transgender, other, or non. People that do not identify as male or female are often grouped under the umbrella terms like non-binary or genderqueer. But the scope of gender identifications is practically unlimited. Gender is deeply rooted in us. Some people realize about their gender identity early in the childhood and some later. Gender also intersects with other categories such as class, skin color, ethnicity, or disability. And gender is something we express. That's why we call about gender expression. Sometimes we do it intentionally and sometimes not. It's about the way we communicate our gender, the way we dress, the way we move, our hairstyle, the ways of interactions with others. Gender expression can vary for an individual from day to day or in different situations. But most people can identify a range on the scale where they feel the most comfortable. Some people are comfortable with a wider range of gender expressions than others. Aspects of sex will not vary substantially between different human societies and over time, while aspects of gender may vary greatly. To give you some examples of sex characteristics may include, for example, women can menstruate while men cannot, or men have testicles while women do not, or women have developed breasts that are usually capable of lactating, producing milk, while men have not. Or men generally have bigger bones than women. What about gender characteristics, or some examples of gender characteristics? In most countries, women earn significantly less than men. Also in some countries, tobacco industries target women by feminizing cigarette packaging for certain brands. They make small purse packs that resemble cosmetics and evoke slimness. The use of feminine color is also popular, such as pink. Another example, in most of the world, women do more housework than men. And the last one, in some countries, people can legally marry their partners of the same sex. In other countries, this is not allowed. Because of gender, we have gender identity. That is a concept of self as male, female, both, or neither. It is about how we see ourselves and how we deeply think about ourselves in terms of our gender. Gender identity is often confused with the concept of sexual orientation, which describes patterns of emotional, romantic, and sexual attraction to people. Traditionally, there are three sexual orientations: heterosexual, which is attraction to people of the opposite sex; bisexual, attraction to people of both sexes; and homosexual, attraction to people of the same sex. These three categories are by no means the only labels that describe the variety of sexual identifications. Sexual orientation has to be seen on the continuum from heterosexual to homosexual, with many options in between. What is more, some people may decide not to identify themselves with a particular sexual orientation.